Good evening, it's Gary Sly and the Legacy of Handmade Objects. Happy March. It's Monday, March the 2nd. Getting around to a little later with my video today after the shop closed downstairs. I'm up in this wonderful room upstairs in the old house where I can see the hustle and bustle of the little town out the windows here. It's just a great viewpoint to be. Had a busy day. Started out the day with some workmen here. City of Leesburg is kind enough to offer facade grants for local businesses, and I was able to get some grant money, so I had some guys here this morning putting a beautiful burgundy and yellow awning out in front of the shop's going to be a nice place for a little couple little tables and a place to sit in the shade. So that was kind of nice, but it was a busy morning, and typically Monday mornings are when I try to get a few errands run, so that added to the excitement of all that. And in addition to that, I'm getting ready to leave for Nashville on the Needlework Expo on Thursday morning, and hard upon that, the very next weekend afterwards is a big stitching retreat here in downtown Leesburg. At this point, I have about 80 folks signed up to come to that. And of course, those are always exciting events, but at the same time, there's a lot of preparation that goes into making that a successful undertaking. I do hope if you have any plans to visit Central Florida that you'll think about coming sometime when we have one of these gatherings. Have one scheduled for May the 2nd, another on August the 1st, and the final one in the year for Stitchers is November the 7th. I'll also do a yarn retreat for knitters, crocheters, and tatters the first weekend in September. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about finishes and some works that I've just started and just kind of muse a bit. There's a lot of changes happening downstairs in the shop. Got a real exciting new venture starting next month. I'm going to wait just a little bit to talk about that, but needless to say, I'm renting some space downstairs to some new folks who I think are going to bring a great deal of life and vigor in addition to what's already in place here, and I'm looking forward to that. Let's see, I have been working on a piece of needlepoint, and I finished that and got it framed up this week. This is a piece, it's a William Morris chrysanthemum design. It's hard to show it off without the glare, but this originally began its life as a potential chair cushion. I was planning to do 4 of Morris's flower designs to match the 4 bird designs that I already have in place with this burnished gold background. I changed course on that, and you'll see in a minute a reminder of some of what I'm working on there. So I decided, excuse me, I decided to take a much smaller approach here and just finish it out enough to where I could frame it. So I'm going to enjoy having that here, and I always love William Morris designs. So that's going to be a fun addition either here upstairs somewhere or down in the shop. Taking a little bit of a hiatus from the needlepoint, having finished that piece, but I have go ahead and framed up the next piece that I'm going to work on. You saw already the 4 chair cushion designs I did of the 4 fruits. Typically when I do needlepoint, I just work in hand, but I decided this time I would take the advice of my more seasoned needlepoint friends and put it on a frame, just using little brass tacks. And I'm going to work on this on the frame this time. I'm also going to try some more fancy stitches on the background of this. I was thinking about doing a mosaic stitch or something a little more decorative rather than just a simple old tent stitch, which is what I've always backed my cushions with in the past. Now that I know a little more about it, it might be kind of fun to try something new. So I've got the wool in place. I don't know that I'm going to really start stitching on this right away, but it's set up and ready to go whenever I want to pick it up. And of course, now that I'm traveling next week, I've got to think about what I'm going to carry with me. So I don't know, I might get started on this while I'm in Nashville if I see the need. So that's exciting. The thing that I'm starting to work on, because I have a new deadline to work towards, is a wedding sampler. I won't talk about this a lot over the course of the months, but my daughter, my middle child, is getting married in October, and I've decided I'm going to work on this wedding sampler from Counting Puddles. I've always just loved the colors of this. Ever since I saw it, I've been taken by it, and I hope that my daughter and her potential husband are going to love it as much as I do. So I did order some fabric from Wish-Shelf. I think I mentioned last week I rarely do that. I usually just grab whatever's around and get started. But I have this 28 count linen, I forget exactly what they call it now. Is it celery or something like that? I should have figured that out before. So it's artichoke, 28 count artichoke linen. And I've already started in the middle, so you can see I've worked on some of the lacy kind of panel that will eventually have the full date of the wedding. And then I've done just a few stitches of those wonderful floral designs on the pattern. Now, as I said, I won't show you this a whole lot. I don't feel the need to spoil the surprise in case my daughter happens to look at Flosstube, which I don't think she does regularly. No reason for me to do anything to spoil that. But when I'm finished, I'll do a little video where you can see the progress over time, and that'll be fun. I am really enjoying it. The bright colors, the change of colors, and the feel of this lovely linen that I bought are just wonderful. So I'm looking forward to working on that. That's not always the kind of project I take with me when I'm traveling, because it's delicate and the counting is rather intense. And I find sometimes when I'm staying in hotel rooms or traveling that the light is not exactly what I would want. And you can see I've got my own trusty light here at home. If I can pull it down far enough you can see it or not without making a mess, but I always have a good light when I'm working. And I'm lucky enough at this point that I am nearsighted, so if I take my glasses off, I can see just fine up close. So that's always fun. One of the things that we look forward to here in Florida is the visits we have every winter from our friends in colder climates. Of course, I'm sure you've heard them called snowbirds. Many folks come to Florida for a few months in the winter, sometimes as many as 7 months, depending on their schedules. And then they live back wherever home is for the rest of the year. Just had a woman in the shop a minute ago who basically, she and her husband have a home in Kansas, but they're really only there maybe about a month out of the year. They basically travel around in RVs for the other 11 months, and they stop in Kansas for doctor's appointments and things like that once a year. They're planning to leave here, and as we head into the summer, they're going to make the long drive from the continental United States up to Alaska, which just sounds pretty wonderful to me. She said they travel 2 or 3 hours a day, and then they stop, and they usually spend 3 or 4 days, even a week, wherever it is they stop. And so they just kind of meander at their own pace. I'm sure they have goals, because of course you don't want to arrive in Alaska just as the blizzard season begins. So I'm sure they want to get to Alaska and get back before the weather turns bad. But of course they've got a long time to make that happen. So it sounds like a pretty wonderful thing. They still have a home base, and they can still connect with people with communication the way it is. It really is quite wonderful that we can do that. But the reason I went into that long-winded story about snowbirds is to say that I have some really dear friends that show up here every year, just like clockwork, and they come in the shop and they spend time and we catch up and we reminisce. Sometimes I hear from them during the year, but their lives are busy, my life is busy, and I don't often get a chance to connect. But it's just great when they're here during that time. So my friend Beth, who lives up in Ohio, she and her husband own a 20,000 acre farm up there, and her two sons now run the farm as she and her husband have retired. Beth is here every year. She loves to come down and spend about 6 weeks. She spends most of that time here by herself. Her husband will drive her down, take a plane back to Ohio, and then he'll fly back this year around April 1st and drive Beth back home. That means she has a lot of independence and she's always roaming around doing fun things. Beth has through the years traditionally done cross stitch to commemorate her trips. She was a high school teacher in Spanish way back when, and every year she'd take kids on a trip and she would always do a cross stitch to commemorate that trip. Well, now she does that every year when it comes to her trips to Florida. Last year, I was lucky enough to be included, well, let's say 2024, I was lucky enough to have been included on her composite, shall we say, that she designed of her trip to Florida. Well, much to my surprise, Beth came in 2 weeks ago and she presented me with this. So what she did last year in celebration of my new building and the sign that's out front, she designed her 2025 cross stitch with my house and a sign with all of my information on it out front. And you can see on either side of the sign, she has still listed all the places that she visited while she was in Florida this year. Well, it's just such a wonderful rendition of the house. You can see what a good job she does of capturing and turning it into cross stitch. You know, I have all these apps and opportunities to try to turn photographs and art into cross stitch, but I don't have the skill that Beth does to just take a picture and turn it into a cross stitch. So I'm actually gonna, with her permission, she's already given it to me, gonna use this as a model and put together some kits, or at least patterns, of the house here in Leesburg. And she's also agreed to do at least one more pattern of one of our great historic places here in Leesburg, the Moat Morse House. So in a year or two, when she gets around to it and I have all the stuff here, I'm going to put together some kits. I'd like to do kits of the Moat Morse House because it's a very well-known landmark here, and proceeds from those kits would be a nice way to support our Leesburg Heritage Society and the history that's so important to us here. Being in a historic home here really does give me a lot of chance to think about how the history of this town has influenced the region around it. I just always love diving into that stuff. So great deal of thanks to Beth for thinking about me and commemorating her time in Florida last winter with this piece. And you know, I just can't always wait with great anticipation to see what she has captured and what she's going to do in coming years. Not all of us are good designers. Some of us are just better at following somebody else's directions. Beth is, I think, gifted in the ability to kind of turn buildings into a cross stitch and do a great job with those. So that's a great gift on her part, and it's obviously something that means a huge amount to me. So that's kind of where we are. Thursday morning, I head off to Nashville. Shop will be open. My assistants are wonderful at keeping things going while I'm gone. Get back, get back next Sunday, hit the ground running, start getting ready for the retreat on March 14th. So that's where we are, and when I hit the ground next Monday, hopefully I'll find a few moments to click in and talk to you guys. I don't know if I'll be able to do a full review of market by then, because it's going to be really hard to get back, get everything out, get it priced, and get it ready. But I'd love in coming weeks to do a review of the patterns and fabric and all the wonderful things that I'm going to pick up at the Needlework Expo this year. So I hope you have a wonderful week. From what I can tell, the weather's beginning to break up a little bit in some areas. And of course we know that March brings at least the hope and the potential for some warm weather in springtime. As always, this is Gary Sly, and it's the legacy of Handmade Objects.